Time to get out now. You're here for the road safety audit course. And I want to, straight off the bat, acknowledge the traditional owners of the many lands that we're running this training course. And it's pretty exciting, actually, the variety of places, and wonderful to see some people introducing themselves in Moodle. And we've got Victorians, South Australians, Tasmanians, Territorians, the Northern Territory, Queensland and New Zealand. I think that covers everybody we've got. So good to New South Welsh people. One New South Welsh person. So welcome. I just say straight off the bat, I suppose a content warning. We do use some road crash scenes to analyze how we can prevent them, really. So none of them are hugely graphic, but just a warning if that will cause you distress. So it's something to be aware of. And we are recording the session. And the reason we record the sessions are so anybody who misses a session can catch up, watch the recording. If there was something that was said that you have a particular interest in, you want to replay, you can go and find it and replay that. So the other thing is your camera won't work for this session at all. So don't worry if you're there in your underpants, that's all good. We won't see it. We can unmute you, but that's a choice that we have to decide to give you permission to unmute yourself. And the reason we do that is just the group training to try to minimize background noise, people forgetting to unmute or forgetting to mute themselves and shouting at somebody or the like. So just to try to minimize that. But the way you chat is through the chat and through the Q&A if you want. And if you did really want to talk about something, delve into an issue, explain something, you could put your hand up, and then Kathy and Emma will find you and give you the ability to unmute yourself and have a chat. And it's probably a good time to introduce Kathy and Emma. And so Kathy and Emma are our moderators. We've got Kathy's details on screen there. And they're going to be behind the scenes monitoring the chat and feeding me consolidated questions, jumping in at different points if there's people have something they want to say, and also helping out with any tech issues, access to our learning management system, which we'll take you through shortly. Anything else sort of administratively, marking of assignments and those sort of things. I'll do the marking, but they'll any organising around that. So really do get in contact with Kathy if anything arises throughout this course. You should have received a pack in the mail, have a memory stick in that pack. You also probably have access to Moodle, which is going to give you a copy of the slides that we're presenting. So you've got a bit of a backup there and some phone numbers if things went bad. But Kathy, you can probably expand on some of that.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thank you, Ken. So Emma's just recently joined us, so you would have received all the information and meeting invites from her, and it's all working lovely because everyone's here. So that's terrific. Well done, Emma.
Thank you.
And basically, I guess the key thing is if you're having any tech issues, if the thing freezes or anything along those lines, the best thing to do is to shut down and restart. And usually that fixes kind of 90% of the problems. But if it all goes a bit pear-shaped, then the slides are on your USB stick that we've sent you. Also in Moodle, which just about, I think now everyone has joined and jumped in there. And so you can dial in and follow along. And we've certainly had all sorts of exciting things happen throughout the series. So we're well versed in making it all still come together.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, and that's me and Jamie Robinson, who you'll meet later on, and we're going to be sort of running the technical content of the training course. So I'm the principal engineer at Safe System Solutions, and I do a lot of road safety auditing. I've been doing that for near 20 years now. And Jamie actually started at the Victorian Government Road Authority, Vic Roads, with me back many years ago. And he also does a lot of road safety auditing and technical design and the like. So Jamie will pop in one of the later modules, and I'll be running through a whole lot of stuff there. Got my little LinkedIn QR code there, which will pop on the bottom of the screen throughout. And the reason I do that is to actually, there it is down the bottom there, is because there's just so much information in road safety, and it's continual learning and discussion. And I think LinkedIn's working as a nice platform to have some of that discussion. Yeah, you get a few nutters in there, but that's all right. They express their opinion. So yeah, just love to connect with people and have those discussions. And Safe System Solutions puts out a lot of safe system snippets and little bits of information about road safety, sort of to keep you in that continual professional development space as well. So you can QR code that, or of course you can just search in LinkedIn for my name and find me, or Safe System Solutions and follow us, and lots of good stuff there. But this is Moodle, the platform there. Kathy, why don't you explain Moodle? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I do. It gets me every time. Thank you. Thanks for that. So Moodle, and many of you have joined and said your hellos in there, so you can all see where each other is from and the vast amount of experience that we have within the group. But basically, after each of the live sessions, there'll be a short quiz, multiple choice type quiz for you to do, and that's in Moodle in that particular module numbers folder. Your assignments will be in there as well, and that's where you will get the information, and that's also where you submit your finished assignment back in there, and then can mark it from there. So basically houses all of the information. Each webinar recording will also be loaded onto there approximately sort of 2 hours after the session is complete. So if you do miss any sessions throughout the series, you can go back, or if you want to watch them again and talk about nutters on LinkedIn, you can do that as well. So that's all available to you. Any problems, of course, get in touch with myself or get in touch with Emma if you're having any navigational type issues there.
Awesome. Thank you. So Moodle's the place to be. This is Wally the Wombat. Wally the Wombat appears randomly on slides throughout each module. And one of the questions in those quizzes Kathy mentioned at the end of each session is, how many times did Wally appear in the slides? So you've got to be paying attention to the slides and just keeping a track, jotting on a bit of paper or something, how many times Wally appeared. Now we give you a little bit of tolerance either side here in terms of Wally numbers, just in case you get distracted by something briefly, or drop your coffee and cleaning that up while you and miss one Wally. But that's one of your questions, and you submit that in your Moodle quiz. That one's not an official Wally, so your Wally count for this session is 0 Wally so far. The quizzes and the assignments, we do have a minimum pass mark, and this has been a requirement of the jurisdictions where you can get onto road safety audit registers as a result of successfully completing this course. And I'll talk to you about that whole process in our final module. So you'll probably have a lot of questions about that. How do I get on registers? How do I become a senior auditor? All that. We'll get to that. But in order to successfully complete this course, you need to attend 4 out of the 5 live webinars and view that other one, the recording of it. If for some reason you absolutely can't make another, talk to Kathy, talk to Emma, and we'll work something out for you. You need to satisfactorily complete the tasks, the quizzes, the exercises and the assignments, And within that, it has to be an 80% pass mark. So the benchmark's pretty high. And yeah, there's no hiding behind that. We want a high level of competency from you as you go out into the world and start doing road safety audits. But don't get too scared, because we are here to support you through this all the way. If you fail, that's a fail on me as well. So I'm not going to let that happen. And I'm going to make sure you get through this by building that knowledge in you. And so if you go ahead and do the first quiz and you get a very low mark and you're really confused, get in contact with me. We'll do a one-on-one Zoom session. We'll have a phone call. We'll talk through each of the questions and go back to some of the slides. We'll really work through it together. Same with the assignments or the actual audit that you're going to do. We're here to help get you through that. Any questions about the running of the sessions?
No questions at the moment, Ken. And if you do have questions along the way, please just type them into the chat as we go. We'll pause along the way and get those to Ken. But don't hesitate. Basically, type it in as we go along.
Yeah, good point, Kathy. Because certainly as you think of a question, type it in then and there. Don't wait for me to ask, does anybody have any questions? Because as you start to type, I'll have moved on. So get them in there as you think of them. And Kathy and Emma will sort of filter those and consolidate them and get rid of profanities and ask the question. Right, let's do it. I'm going to dive straight into it and we'll get going. Introduction to road safety audit. This is exciting. So by the end of this session, what we want to do is have you be able to define what a road safety audit is and how road safety audits fit into the context of any project's life cycle. Differentiate between a road safety audit and a black spot investigation, which is a term some of you will be familiar with. Define risk rate audit findings, explain the safe system, determine kinetic energy thresholds for different crash types, and categorize road safety audit findings into safe system elements. Wow, that sounds like a lot. I better get into it. All right, so this course follows the Austroads Guide to Road Safety Part 6 and 6A, and they look like this. And you'll see there, those other two documents on the side there. They're the older versions of these ones, the older versions. Yeah, just checking my pen works. So those are the old ones. They're superseded by 6 and 6A, and I'm currently working on the consolidation of 6 and 6A back into one part, working for Austroads on that one to come out soon. But what we do in this course overall, right? So the first one was what we're going to get out of this module, but overall in this course, it's about the process of road safety auditing. Process of road safety auditing. There is no possible way in this short amount of time in these modules that we can teach you everything to see out there on the road network that presents risk. That first of all is just a never-ending learning process, and you really need sort of a lot of time and experience. But what we can teach you is the process and a few key things that I've seen in my many years auditing that just sort of keep coming up over and over, or just typical ways to look at stuff. And we want you to have a basic skill set in road safety auditing, and you'll see that in every jurisdiction, you are graduated into road safety auditing. You don't finish this course and then immediately get the status of being able to go out and do a road safety audit on the new design of the major motorway interchange. No, you graduate slowly up to that. You build knowledge, you build experience, and you work in teams to be able to do that. We're ensuring that you undertake road safety audits through a safe system lens. I'll get to that in a bit more. Common issues I mentioned, and understanding the needs and the safety issues of all road users: cyclists, motorcyclists, heavy vehicles, pedestrians, cars. So it's not just cars, or it's not just one of these types, it's all road users. And we want to encourage you to use road safety auditing and understand road safety auditing, and of course, answer any questions you have about road safety auditing. There you go, I'm going to be nice. Wally count is 1. No more help on Wally counts for the rest of the modules. All right. This looks messy and scary, this diagram. It's straight out of the Austroads Guide to Road Safety, Part 6, Road Safety Audit. And what it is it's showing sort of the life cycle of a road or of a project. And you see up here, you've got the project. So that's if you're going to do upgrades to a road, for example. But either side of that, you've got the existing road, and you've got corridor planning and business case and strategic thinking. And then you've got, the road's open, and then you've just got a network down here. You've got a whole road network that's existing, and it's got issues, and you've got to maintain it. You've got to look at things. So we can inject road safety into this whole life cycle in a number of different ways. And you can see them here. We've got safety vision, we've got proactive techniques. And road safety audit is what we call a proactive technique for injecting safety into your network or your project. We've got predictive techniques such as ANRAM, OSRAP, IRAP, the Safe System Assessment Framework. Now, Kathy, I didn't mention, but we have a lot of prizes that we like to give out. You were in the prize pit there with Emma. We've got to give out lots of prizes. So how about this? I'm going to say the first person to type in what IRAP stands for. It's one that I said, it's not written there. IRAP will win a prize. So first person to type in what IRAP stands for wins a prize. I said we've got ANRAM, OSRAP, IRAP, and they're predictive techniques. Yep.
And
Nick's got it.
Nick's got it, and he's shared it with everyone, so everyone knows. And it's not the first thing you type into Google too. If you type IRAP into Google, you don't get the International Road Assessment Program.
No, you get, have used it a lot. Good on you, Nick. Okay. IRAP, so it's part of the predictive review techniques, but basically it is an international road assessment program that takes a whole lot of road variables and gives you a risk rating for the road. And actually star rates roads. The same way your fridge gets star rated or your washing machine gets star rated, your road gets star rated. We do a lot of it as well, Nick. So it's glad to hear you're using it as well. And then down here, we have this reactive techniques, right? These are once crashes are happening, or once you've identified there's issues, these post-implementation reviews, or if you've got a cluster of crashes, treatment of crash locations, black spots. Okay, that's different to a road safety audit. Once you're dealing with a pile of crashes, you're actually doing another process. There's a lot of overlap between it and a road safety audit, but nonetheless, it's got its own name and it's got a black spot investigation or a crash location treatment exercise, crash review. Okay, so you see road safety audit sitting in there and lots of different stages of audit. Okay, and they're all sort of stages of a project or an existing road, and I'll come to that later. But that's sort of a general sort of context around that. All right, and I just chuck in these sort of slides with a big exclamation mark, warning sign, European warning sign. Wouldn't be a warning sign in Australia or actually New Zealand may use this. New Zealand people, tell me if you use that as a warning sign. Okay, common road safety audit misunderstanding that a road safety audit is a check against standards. Okay, it's not. Because standards don't necessarily equal safety. So you may follow all the Australian standards, the Austroads guides, local standards and guidelines and the like, and what you produce may or may not be safe. it's a pretty good starting point because there's been a bit of good thinking into the development of guidelines and standards. But there's a few reasons. Standards may come together in a way that presents an unsafe scenario. So it may meet standard and then the other one meets standard, but they come together in a really bad way. The standards may be old, may have inherent risk as part of those standards. And sometimes people may be missing standards, or there may not be a standard around that topic that you're talking about. Now, those who do road safety audits go from this and do lots of road safety audits in other countries, you will see that some of the standards are just abysmal in terms of the amount of risk that is inherent in that standard. And so you may be picking up issues that meet their standards, but you're presenting as safety issues. And this term road safety audit, though, has got this real connotation of like a financial audit or the like, doesn't it? I mean, the term audit, you're thinking, well, I'm checking that against the standard and giving it ticks and crosses. Well, road safety audit is not quite like that, but it does include a bit of review of standards as well. I'll take you through all this. Let's just jump into an example here. Okay, straight into an example. Now, this is a tragic event, a loss of life to the driver of this heavy vehicle. They've run into the gantry on this road. So, random prize to anybody who can tell me which road this is. That'll be a good prize if you can work that out. It's going to be James. Just straight off the bat, Eastlink, correct. Good job, James. It is Eastlink. Little clue in the top corner for those from Victoria or who know Victoria is the colour of that sign. But anyway. Okay, so we've had a tragic incident here. Eastlink. Eastlink was not built that long ago. I mean, it was only, maybe 10 years ago or the like. And, lots of billions of dollars spent on this road. And it's open. And, within a relatively short period of time, somebody's killed. How's that possible? How can we, open this brand new infrastructure and then somebody's killed? Imagine if this was a train line. They do a new train line from, I don't know, Melbourne to Ballarat. And within, a few months of it opening, somebody's killed. It'd be a very different response. But anyway, that's an aside. Let's get into the road safety auditing of this. Now, you'll see there that there's a road safety barrier system there, isn't there? It's a wire rope barrier system. Let's say it's a test level 3 system, okay? Can anybody tell me what weight of vehicle and what speed of vehicle, well, actually, we'll just go what weight of vehicle the tests are done for barriers? Test level 3. Anybody want to have a guess? Just the weight of the vehicle. 50 tonne, 500 kilogram. Have a guess. Oh. All right. I'm loving the precision from Nick. Nick's gone with 2.27 kilograms under MASH, which is correct. This barrier would have actually been under the previous barrier test standard, and so I'm going to give it to Duncan because Nick's also already got a prize, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Kathy. So Duncan's going to get a prize, 2 tonne. So 2 tonne pickup truck, 25-degree angle, hit 100 kilometres an hour. Yes, MASH has gone a little bit higher with some of that. But the point being that barrier was really going to be crashed, really only ever expected to, it's only ever really expected to contain a vehicle of a fairly small mass, right? This is even the higher crash test standard. So it would be a test level 4. And it's only going to take a 10-ton vehicle like this. If we go back and have a look at this one, I mean, that vehicle, if it was, full, we're going to be way over whatever that barrier was tested. Okay. So the standard was met as such, right? The barrier met a standard. It's just probably the wrong standard. And so you as an auditor have the challenge of being able to, when they're designing EastLink and they're putting it on a bit of paper, the next EastLink, to look at it and say, that's interesting. Okay, so they're putting barriers out there. They're test level 3 barriers. Gee, there's a lot of heavy vehicles that run up and down planning to run up and down this road. That barrier is not going to contain them. So I wonder what the risk is if they breach the barrier system. And in this case, there's 2 risks that I'm particularly concerned about. The first risk is the one that's killed the truck driver, striking into that gantry. The next risk I'm worried about is that gantry coming down across the carriageway. And then we're going to have cars hitting it and the like. So some of you are probably at this stage going, oh my God, I'm way out of my depth here. I don't know anything about barrier systems. He's talking about test levels. I don't know what's going on. Don't worry. Don't worry. We do not put you out there to do the road safety audit, be responsible for decisions about these sorts of things straight away. You are going to be in a team of auditors. And if you are asked to be part of the audit team on this, you would ensure that somebody has really good road safety barrier knowledge, and you can then continue your learning, right? But you, regardless of how good your knowledge is or how little your knowledge is around these sorts of things, you can just ask these questions. There's a barrier. It's protecting vehicles from hitting objects behind it. You say, how strong is that barrier going to be? What is it going to hold all these vehicles? What are some of the interesting things about that barrier? So, okay, Duncan's put in another really good point is about, well, what is on the other side of that median? And what is that vehicle going to potentially strike into? So a third risk, I mentioned the 2 immediate ones, there's a third one. So we're thinking about these scenarios, and really this is what an auditor is doing, but you don't have the luxury of having seen the crash happen. You have to predict it. You have to visualize the future and predict what could happen. And I just think it's just amazing. I think it's a wonderful thing to try and put yourself in the road user's shoes, or on the bike, or in the car, or walking, and imagine all the risks and crashes that could happen around you, and then try to analyze which of those are genuine ones, which are not going to happen in 1,000 years, and try and play all that out. But keep your questions or comments coming in on the chat. Always happy to delve off into different areas. Although Kathy will pull me back in time-wise. Let's do another example. I'm just jumping into examples to get us warmed up. All right, here we go. We've got a design, right? And this, a lot of road safety auditing is done at the design stage. You're looking at lines on paper, and you're trying to imagine it built, and you're trying to imagine the problems that happen. I'm going to use another Victorian example here. I'm going to use the recent upgrade to the Chandler Highway Bridge and associated paper mill site and Heidelberg Road intersection upgrade. Some of you might know it. And I'm going to zoom in on that bit there. Okay. So we've got a new access point, a new intersection being built here, accessing into the big, massive development that is happening down here. Huge development. So they've provided them a signalised intersection with turn lanes, and you're coming along at 60 km/h speed limit, and they've got a turn lane nicely there. You're in where the red car is that I've marked. You're in your straight ahead lane. and you continue on and bang, you're in a right turn lane. All right. This is what we call a trap lane. I think whoever named it is genius, because it is exactly what you are trapped. Like you haven't done it. You're going along straight. You're in a lane that goes straight, and then all of a sudden, whoa, I'm in a turn lane, and you have to get out of it. And we know that a trap lane is going to have crashes in this area. Okay, because vehicles are going to come up to it, they're going to realize they're going to, that all the other vehicles are going past. They want to get in, keep going. We're going to have rear end. We're going to have side swipe crashes. Okay. The thing is that this is again a $500 million, $600 million project, and they are building a trap lane into it. Okay? So again, as an auditor, this is where we can do some wonderful things, where we can suggest alterations to the design to make sure this isn't a trap lane. So again, I'm picking sort of random issues just to give you an example of what auditing is all about. So there's, the barrier one, which is, barriers not containing the vehicles that are expected. Trap lanes pop up a lot with challenges in land and property boundaries and all those constrained areas. But trap lanes are a good one. As you drive around the network or ride around the network, keep an eye out for trap lanes. You'll see a few of them. You've probably been trapped in many of them, and now you know the name for them. All right, I'm going to do a little exercise now for you to tell me a few things. I'm going to play this little video. Now, hopefully it streams nicely for you, but we'll play it a couple of times. What we can see here, Dashcam Owners Australia are just a wonderful source of learning material. You get to see the real behaviours out there. We see this white ute go past. Now we'll look at the front view. Right. Okay, let's have a look again. Okay, hopefully that's streamed for you. You're able to see it. I've got some still pictures of it coming up. If it didn't, I'm going to play it again for you, and it'll play twice over. What I want you to be looking at and looking out for now is what in the road environment, the infrastructure, the roads, the signs, the lines, all of the surrounding trees and everything like that. What in that environment may have influenced the white ute driver not giving way? I mean, we can see from here, it's a give way line. They should have given way to that vehicle. They didn't. What may have contributed to them not giving way? Right, that's going to be the question I'm asking, and you'll be typing that in. And I've got a couple of things that I'm going to give away prizes if people say. But I'm going to play it again to have a look just at what's happening. Okay. Right. So now I want you to just type a few things in there if you can think of them. We've got a few that have come in already, but I'll give you a minute to just ponder that. I'll pop up um, a few of the stills as people have a think about those. So there's one of the sort of stills just as the driver's gone through there. And then there's the sort of crash happening. I might play it once more just while we get those comments coming in. Oh, how do I play it again? No, that's just drawing. Okay, I'm going to read some of these points that are coming in, and then we'll have a chat about them. Oh. All right. Well, Emma and Kathy, we've got a good group here. They are ripping into this. We've got wonderful comments that have come in. Let me go through a few of them. And right, quite a number of people have got a really keen eye for signage, and they've pointed out that the give way is obscured by the other sign. So we've got signage clutter going on, and we've got one sign obscuring another. Now, this may have played a factor in it. I don't think it would have been a huge factor in this, but it certainly may have played a factor, and something that, as an auditor, you'd be hoping you'd be picking up things like that. So well done to those who said that. So we've got some commentary around the line marking being a bit faded and not being the best. Again, another good a good pickup. The one that's sort of coming up a number of times in here is talking about the speed of the vehicle on the approach here. And I think that's a really insightful sort of bit of commentary. I mean, they're coming in quite fast. By the time they realise, I think, that they should give way at this point, it's all going too fast, a little bit too late. What I sort of want you to be doing as road safety audit is going to the next step. Like, you're going, okay, they're going a bit fast. Why are they going too fast? Our temptation would be to just think about the individual behaviour aspects of it, but we're sort of thinking about what we can control, which is the road and the road environment. So a few of you have put some commentary around, is there enough advanced warning that there's an intersection coming up? Good point, good question, good thing to look at as a road safety auditor. And then there's a few people who have started to ask some questions that I think are really insightful, and what road safety auditors really should be trying to think about. Somebody's asked, is it clear enough that this is not a roundabout? Okay, that's an interesting point, and I'm wondering if any of you actually thought it was a roundabout. So maybe this driver was confused into thinking it was a roundabout, and that they could approach and navigate around it, and the other vehicles might be slowing down to give them time. Now, maybe this one in looking at the crash and analysing it, maybe not, because they didn't really slow down to navigate it like a roundabout. But it's line marked like a roundabout. It's got give way signs which look exactly like roundabout signs, except for the words in the little roundabout symbol. It's got a hazard board in the middle, like a roundabout does, just a slightly different hazard board. So what you're trying to do is sort of, see if you can perceive the road like somebody, so 1 in 10,000, 1 in a million might perceive the road, and they might perceive it like that. The other one, though, that came in, which is the one I'm going to give a little prize to, is that John, it's John, isn't it? I've lost it now. I'm pretty sure, yeah, John has said minus see-through effect. And so what does John mean by see-through effect? Well, see-through effects is sort of this term we use at intersections where you get visual deceit, that the road is deceiving you slightly to thinking that your road just continues on unabated. You don't have to give way. I mean, everything's straight, it all lines up, you see straight through, and off you go. And I would say that there's a few elements to this site that encourage visual deceit. The term I like to use, it's used a lot in road safety auditing. The road is somehow deceiving the driver. Not intentionally, it hasn't been designed to intentionally deceive, but it's doing that. And one of the key features to that is sort of a run of power poles or a run of trees. And if you find that you have a straight run of power poles or trees that continues off into the distance, sort of like this one, it really increases the drivers and riders feeling that their road continues on and that they don't have to give way. So I would be concerned that this road slightly misleads drivers. So there's lots of other great points in here that I'm loving. We won't have time to get through them all, but really wonderful stuff. Sight lines to look at. And the thing is, when you're auditing, you're looking at a huge raft of things and trying to predict all this without being able to see crashes like that happen. I categorize these types of crashes, or we categorize these types of crashes as overshoot crashes. The driver or the rider approaching the intersection has not identified that they have this requirement to yield, to give way, or they've identified too late. The alternate is what we call a restart crash. A restart crash is where they've slowed, or they completely know that they have to give way and they've made a bad judgment, for one reason or another. The next thing I just want to talk briefly about in this is what happens here. Okay, the vehicle hits the light post and it breaks away, and then the top falls down. Now, somebody pointed out the top falling down, and is that another secondary hazard? Potentially. But can anybody tell me what we would call this type of light pole? It's got a special name, one that it sort of broke away. Chris is onto it. Chris gets a prize. Slip base light pole. So it is. It breaks away on impact. The alternate would be a fixed, a fixed rigid light pole, which wouldn't have broken away. Now, I think that the choice to use a slip-based pole in this location has saved the life of the blue car or the dark car, or at least a serious injury. And the reason for that is that it doesn't take much in terms of extra distance to dissipate a whole lot of energy in a crash. If that was rigid, all of that energy would have been shot straight back into the car driver, and they would likely be killed or seriously injured. But we saw them just get out of their car and walk away. So there was a choice by a designer, and maybe a road safety auditor was involved and said, hey, we've been worried that a vehicle might leave the road and hit this pole. Could we make it slip-based? Again, this may have been just part of the design, and the designers are pretty good at thinking of this stuff, but the auditor is there to inject this thinking, to suggest, to say, hey, could we do that? To be honest, I have never seen a slip-based pole where the top breaks off like this, right? So I can't really make commentary on whether that's a big danger or not. I'm not as concerned about it as some people seem to be, but yeah, it looks pretty amazing. But anyway, it's a good video of a slip-based pole. And the thing is that as road safety auditors, we don't want to just think about what is contributing to that person making the mistake. We also want to think about, once the mistake has happened, what's contributing to the severity of that incident? And is there anything we can do about that? So we want to think about, can we reduce the chance the crash happens in the first place by infrastructure changes? And can it be that if one does slip through, it doesn't result in high-level serious injuries or death? It's something like this and people walk away from it. And they're design choices that can be made. So a slip-based pole, for those who aren't familiar with it, basically has a flange and some bolts tensioned up to a specific tension level, and impact at the bottom, it shears, and you hold a bit of your wind loading and the torque from the bolts. And there you can see a road safety auditor having a look at one of those with a very sophisticated measuring tool of a pen. We have usually use a tape measure, but anyway. The reason the auditor's just sort of looking at that a little bit is because if you see a slip-based pole out there in an existing conditions audit, and it's way too high, the vehicle's going to snag on it. It's not going to work at all. It's going to be a rigid pole because the bottom is very well secured into the ground. If it's too low, we get worried that it's not going to break away just as it was designed. So you do want to make sure they're around the right height. There's a fair bit of tolerance in that though as well. But you are going to be given plans like this as a road safety auditor. That might be part of the detailed design set, and they're saying, oh, well, okay, we're going to do some lighting upgrades amongst our other works, and we're going to put lighting poles here, 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 and here, and here, and there's all of this information, and these ones are going to be rigid poles, and you as an auditor sort of have to look at that and say, okay, that's interesting. Lighting, that's good. Is the lighting going to cause any see-through effects? Is it going to cause other issues? Is there enough of it? Does it cover the pedestrian crossing locations? All of these questions you might be thinking about. And then you might say, okay, now what if somebody leaves the road and hits one of these light poles? What's going to happen then? And so you might be suggesting that they use slip-based, or in some situations, you might be suggesting that a slip-based could be another issue. Now, somebody want to type in when they think a slip-based pole could be another hazard. We just saw them working in action and they were awesome. But when would you potentially not be wanting to use a slip-based pole? Okay, so this is good. We've got lots of people who are talking about areas with pedestrians, high numbers of pedestrians, and where is it going to fall? So who are we going to go with there? I think it was Nick was first on the pedestrian ones. I think the pedestrian one is a sort of dominant one. You do not want your slip-based pole to be struck, maybe even at sort of moderate speeds, and fall into areas where pedestrians are congregating and the like. The cross carriageways is not great either, but we tend to have a bit more acceptance of that over tram lines, over power lines and the like. You've got to be a bit aware of as well. Certainly, if you're going to attach signal infrastructure and the like to it, it's probably not an area you're going to be doing too much use of slip-based poles. So this was Victoria Gardens, and I was just noting that that one back there was actually just near there, which I thought, oh, it's quite a high pedestrian area just as the way it plays out. So something you might scratch your head about as an auditor when it looks like this. Because once it's in, I tell you, they're probably not going to change it. It costs a lot of money to change it. But when it's just at this stage, it's actually really easy to change. Okay, so there is another type of frangible pole. Frangible is the term that we use for breaks away on impact, or it absorbs energy on impact. And so frangible is a term very heavily used in our profession, and I always need to remind myself not to use it in community public consultations because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But this one is called an energy absorbing or an impact absorbing pole, and it's like a slip-based pole, but it doesn't break away at the bottom, and it actually just engulfs the vehicle within it, just the way this one has. So if you're really concerned about a pole in a medium to lower speed environment where you didn't want it going too far out, you'd probably use an energy absorbing pole. If you're in a high speed environment, you use a slip-based pole. And if you're in a very low speed environment, you can just use rigid poles because the energy is not enough to be imparting death or serious injury on the drivers of the vehicles. And the dangers of it falling are greater than any potential injury to the occupants of the vehicles. So there's a little bit of an insight into poles. Again, I'm just picking random topics. No, I shouldn't say random. I'm picking topics that come up a lot in road safety audits. But there are just tens of thousands of these sorts of things that you can continue to learn and build on. But I think you're getting to sort of feel what an audit is doing. The thing is that a slip-based pole or a rigid pole can meet standards in pretty much any scenario. You've just got to make the judgment in contextualizing it in the right spot or asking the right questions. The common audit finding is that, slip-based is chosen, where will it fall, and what's the height of any existing slip-based poles with the shearing plane. Another common misunderstanding is that road safety audits are proactive and black spot investigations are reactive. And this is one I still get, weekly. Can you come and do a road safety audit? We've had 10 crashes at this intersection. Now I say, you want me to do a black spot investigation, really? Now, the lines are blurred here. You can do a road safety audit of that intersection. It's just you don't really delve into the depths of those crashes. You don't get the police reports. You don't need to. You don't need to get the police reports. You don't need to look exactly what was going on because you're auditing what's sort of there and what you see, and it's not driven by just those crashes. As I said, this one's probably one where we've blurred it a bit, so I'm not as concerned. And in fact, this question down here, should you look at the crash history as part of a road safety audit? This is personal preference for auditors. It's up to you. I know auditors who refuse to look at crash history. I know auditors who love looking at crash history. And it's really up to you. I will often do my audit, then have a look at the crash history just to see if I missed anything and validate, I was thinking along the right lines or that there were no, site. You might look at it, look at everything, and then you come back and you look at the crash history and it had 5 motorcycle crashes. You say, whoa, okay, what am I missing here? Is there a major motorcycle route that I've missed completely? Or but hopefully you'd be able to pick a lot of that stuff up from your discussions with your client anyway. Road safety audits are extremely cost effective. The benefit cost ratio, or the value you get out of a road safety audit at design stage, 36 to 1. Huge. Every dollar invested returns $36 in savings to our community at design stage. Yeah, it goes down to 6 to 1 for an existing conditions road safety audit. Now, the reason for that is simply that when you look at a design and you pick issues and they change them, it's very cheap to change it on paper, isn't it? There's a little cost in, some different design decisions. If you go out and you do a road safety audit of existing bit of road, any changes, they're expensive because it physically has to be changed. The design one, they were going to build it anyway. They were going to build something anyway. You're just massaging it, tweaking it to get it the safest possible outcome. But regardless, 6 to 1 is an amazing investment. Take that any day. So they're pretty good, pretty exciting way to inject road safety into a project. Okay, I'll pause there. Any questions? Pop your questions in. Kathy, anything come up there?
Yes, thank you, Ken. So what about auditing proposed designs, i.e. black spot treatments? There's a question here saying, I often get them done once our design is ready to be issued for construction.
Yeah, okay. That's probably a little late once they're ready for issue for construction. I'd like that done a little earlier in the process in order to be able to alter to the design and genuinely take on what the auditors are saying. If you've got, your detailed design set, it's fully ready to go, basically stamped, issued for construction, there's a lot of reluctance to make changes. And so really starting to lend the audit process into a bit of a tick box exercise, which we really don't want because that's just a waste of everybody's time and money. So a little bit before that would be good. Get your design done. Everybody's generally happy or on the same line. Get it audited, and the auditor might come back and suggest, what about extending the barrier a little bit, or altering this, or changing this, or you've designed a trap lane in there. We see this as a concern. Could that be altered? And remember that the auditors are just providing you advice. Okay, you are not bound by what the auditor says. You've got a raft of issues to deal with. You've got the drainage, you've got the community, you've got the costs, you've got all this stuff to deal with. The auditors are putting forward, their opinions on how you can get better safety outcomes out of this, or identifying you haven't sort of designed in an absolute clanger. Like I can show you some. In fact, I will show you some shortly. So a little bit earlier would be great.
Thank you, Ken. There's another question just on your previous slide about the BCR. Were those ratios the target that road safety audit needs to achieve, or are they the average ratios that RSAs normally achieve based on past experience?
Yeah, so it's the second. So there's been a handful of evaluations of the effectiveness of road safety audit done around the world, and it's taken a heap of past audits and said, this is what they were going to build. The audit was done. This is what they ended up building, and the improvement in that, they made did some calculations, predictions on that improvement, and put a dollar figure to that, and that's how they got to it. So no, it's not a target. It's not anything that you need to be aiming at or worrying about. It's more for me just to say, really awesome little process to go through. That's hugely beneficial and valuable. Right, here comes a slide with a whole lot of words. I apologize, but we can blame Australians. Well, I was involved in the project, so you can blame me as well. This is the definition of a road safety audit. It is a formal, robust technical assessment of road safety risk associated with transport projects. It's completed by independent and qualified teams. It applies safe system principles while seeking to assure roads operate as safely as practicable by eliminating fatal and serious injury. Considers the safety of all road users, unless specified within the audit brief. I'll come back to that. Can be conducted on proposed, so designs, or existing roads. And its objective is to identify foreseeable hazards for all road users, and it provides a reasonable but not absolute hazard identification method, and it's really focused on fatal and serious injury. Now, it's not an opportunity to redesign the project with no apparent link to safety, and it's not a technical check on design standards. That should be undertaken internally as a quality review process with any design house anyway. Let me just point out a few specific ones. It's formal, okay? The audit process is a formalized process. It's set, it takes time, and there's a specific way it has to be done. Okay, so you can't just call anything a road safety audit. It's got to be done in this process, I think. It's got to be done by independent and qualified teams. Okay, you cannot road safety audit your own design. You cannot road safety audit a project that you are the project manager for. You can road safety audit a road that you are managing if you're a council or a state road authority or a department road or authority. That's okay because it's not like sort of your design. It's the existing road network. It applies safe system principles. I'm going to take you through that. All road users, all right? We're thinking about everybody. If your design brief, your brief says this is a motorcycle specific road safety audit, you're just thinking about the issues for motorcyclists. Or if you're doing a cycling audit. I'll talk about what we call thematic audits later, but it's got a specific theme, and that being motorcycle, cyclists, walking, proposed or existing roads. Okay, let's talk about the safe system. I think we might have a quiz coming up shortly, but unless I've hidden that slide, but anyway, I think we do. The safe system, it's probably something very familiar to a lot of you, so I won't spend too much time on it, but basically the safe system says humans are flying around or traveling around on this transport network, and the human body is vulnerable and it can only handle a certain amount of force. We know that people make mistakes. It's part of being human. They're going to continue to make mistakes. And we've got a shared responsibility, which means that knowing people are going to make mistakes and knowing that their bodies are vulnerable, we've got to start designing the road and the infrastructure, the speeds and the vehicles to accommodate that error and the energy and forces associated with it. We are going to do everything we can to minimize mistakes. Don't get me wrong. It's not like we're just going to happily let crashes happen. We're going to minimize the number of crashes, but some are still going to happen because mistakes will happen, and we need to manage that energy. The key principles of the safe system, we're aiming at no death or serious injury. That's our aspiration. That's our future intent. I'm not going to get caught up in the debate of whether that'll, happen within your lifetime or not, and those sort of things. We aspire to that. We know people make mistakes. We've got a shared responsibility, and people are vulnerable. Here's the quiz, and the quiz has got a question in it that we've answered or that we've been through. It's got 3 questions. 2 of them you should know the answer to by now. It's got 5 questions. 5 questions. 4 of them you should know the answer to. We've sort of talked about it. I didn't really talk a whole lot about one of them. But the 5th one you really have not been told at all. Anyway, you're not getting marked on this, so don't get too stressed. But this is very similar to what you'll get in your quiz at the end of this module, which you will be marked on. But you're not being marked on this, so hopefully it's popped up on your screen. Pop in your answers, and we'll give you an opportunity to have a stretch with a glass of water or something, and we'll be back into it in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Right. We got everybody 16 of 16. Well played. Oh, I think we were both pressing things at the same time there, Kathy. Okay, let's have a look through this. You should be viewing the results. Now, True or false? A road safety audit is another name for a check against standards. Well, almost everybody was onto that. I keep stressing it. It is not another name for a check against standards. You may do a bit of that in it, but no. True or false? You can audit your own design. Well, again, most of you are onto this, and I said no. You definitely cannot audit your own design. It must be independent. That was part of the definition of a road safety audit. Now, this one we really didn't cover in detail. Which of the following is not considered a formal element of the safe system? Safer roads and roadside, safe people, safe speed, safe attitude. Yeah, so safe attitude's not a formal element of the safe system. It'd be nice if we, everybody had a nice safe attitude, but it's not one of the formal ones. Which of these is not one of the common principles of the safe system? Eliminate mistakes on the road. We got it. We got 100%. 100% correct. Well done. We would love to eliminate mistakes on the road, but we know that we're dealing with humans. They're fallible. We're going to make mistakes. So we need to minimize and manage. That's what we're targeting. Minimize and manage. And at what speed did Usain Bolt cross the finish line? This one you were just having a guess or do some calculations, or Google if you did that. 44 kilometers an hour. Most of you were onto that. So let's stop sharing that, Kathy, and we will jump onto our slides. And having a bit of an idea of some reference speeds is a really important thing in road safety audit, and understanding the impact of crashes at these different speeds. Now, this is the graph that some of you will be very familiar with of car, so passenger vehicle, striking pedestrian. And this is the collision speed. Okay. Not the speed limit, it's the actual speed of impact the vehicle is traveling at this. And over on this one, we've got fatality probability. This is chance that this collision at this speed results in death to the pedestrian. And you see there that it's 10, 20, really even up to 30 kilometers per hour. It's highly likely that the pedestrian is going to survive that strike. Up around 70, 60, 70, 80 kilometers per hour, it's highly likely that they're going to be killed. Now, Usain Bolt, he came in up there in terms of his running speed. And I do that analogy because if you park the car at the end of his lane, when he ran that world record 100-meter sprint and he crashed into that, 44 kilometers an hour, will he survive? Well, he's the hulk of a human, so he's probably going to survive. His stature is strong. We kind of evolved that way as humans. We're strong enough to run into solid objects at our maximum running pace. That's generally around our tolerance to physical force. And of course, we propel ourselves way faster than that, and objects come at us way faster than that, and we're just not designed to tolerate that. What we are designed to tolerate is this sort of stuff. This is one I really miss the feedback of a live audience going, ooh. But this is what we're designed to withstand in terms of force. And certainly he recovers, he leads a normal, healthy life. We have this information for other crashes as well. So this one, this green line, this is the bullet vehicle. The bullet vehicle is the one that does the striking, does the damage. This is the target vehicle, all right? The bullet vehicle speed down here, and the target vehicle is the one that gets the death and the serious injury. Bullet vehicle speed at a right angle crash here, you see the crash, it's a right angle crash, around 40, 50 kilometers per hour, highly likely to survive. Up at around 80 or 90, highly likely to be killed, the target vehicle occupant, if struck on that side. And head-on crashes, okay? Head-on crashes we see around 60, 70 kilometers per hour, highly survivable, up around 100, 110, highly likely to be killed. And that's the speed of each vehicle, not the closing speed as such. It's the speed of each vehicle. Now, this stuff is actually really important as we go about road safety auditing to think about that severity of crash, okay? And so what we do, road safety auditing, is draw a line at this 10% level. And we ask the question in the audit, will the crash that I'm predicting happen above this point or below this point? So I'm worried about pedestrians being struck. Will they be struck at speeds above 30 or below 30? And we just make some commentary around that in the road safety audit. Now, there's a little bit of give or take around this, but generally 70, 50 for intersections, 30 to 40 for run-off road, side impact into a tree or a pole. That's very low, isn't it? 20 to 30, somewhere around that for vulnerable road users. So you're going to be asked, when you visualize this crash in your mind, whether it is above tolerable levels in terms of kinetic energy or below tolerable levels in kinetic energy. And the kinetic energy is based on the speed, the mass, and the angle. I'll get into it. I'll give you an example. So if you're a little confused at this stage. But the old model of road safety auditing basically was identify your issue, risk rate it, and recommend treatments. Simple process. The new model of road safety auditing that's been around for a little bit of time now, still identify your audit, still risk rate it, but flag whether this is going to be higher than what we can tolerate under those safe system thresholds, that line we just drew. Then recommend treatments, and then categorize those treatments really into their effectiveness. So this is the whole process that you're going to have to go through. I'm going to get into an example, but Kathy, interested if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Ken. There's a question about the head-on crash data. Is this based on modern vehicles or older vehicles? How much do the crumple zones come into it?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. So this is based off some European stuff, and it was done a while back. However, European fleets are far more advanced than ours, or at least were back then. So crumple zones, airbags, seatbelts are all pretty much were in and part of this. The vehicle technology is getting better, and so we're seeing these shift slightly. There's a couple of PhDs being done at the moment on recreating these for the modern fleet, adding serious injuries in, and trying to integrate a few other vehicles that haven't, and crash types that haven't had this analysis. But for now, it's still just pretty much generally accepted. Just use these graphs and that 10% line. If you want to get into the precision detail of this sort of stuff, you can, but for the purposes of auditing, you just make that sort of general call. This is above what could ever be tolerated, or this is within what can be tolerated in terms of forces. Doesn't mean we want it to happen. And here's some suggestions to stop it happening, but you're just getting a bit of calibration in your thinking about the outcomes. All right, let's get into it. So here we go. Let's get into some designs. Right, what are we doing here? It looks like we're building a signalized intersection. And it looks like it's a roundabout being ripped out and the signalized intersection going into play because those dotted blue lines underneath are looking like a roundabout setup. Okay, so we've got the roundabout coming in, and I'm just going to step you through how you would go about writing up a finding, an audit finding. So you've been looking through these designs, you're pouring through it, you're identifying things that you're concerned about, you're imagining it built, you actually get out on site as well. I'll talk to you about this. You get out on site, you look at that roundabout as it exists, and you say, okay, well, that's getting removed, and these traffic signals are coming in. I wonder what the issues are going to be. And so here they've proposed line markings and changes. They're putting in a proposed Juma or Jama, depending on how you pronounce it. Prize for the person who can first tell me what that acronym stands for. That doesn't really matter in road safety in an audit terms, although you should know. Let's see if who's got. Oh, Lily was in just before Chris. I think it just came down to internet speed on who got that one first. Joint use mast arm. Lily, prize coming your way. So it's a joint use mast arm. That's where you have your traffic signal and your street lighting all on the one pole. It's a joint use, and it's got the mast arm, which sits out. Okay, so I'm going to take you through how to write up an audit finding. Okay, audit. I'm going to, my audit finding on this design is this. We've got a 2.9 meter wide right turn lane. Now, I know this some of the standards and guidelines, but let's not worry about that. That sounds narrow, okay? Even the ones next to it sound narrow, but I'm going to pick on this 2.9 meter wide right turn lane. Now, when you're writing up an audit finding, it's important that you sort of flesh it out and explain it to the client, the person who's receiving your audit report. Right turn bay is too narrow. Okay, well, that's the audit finding, but you really have, they're going to get that and they're going to go, which right turn? What how too narrow? It's you're not telling anything really. That's what I would have called a poor example. Here's a fair example. The right turn bay from main road to side road is too narrow. The concern is it increases potential for side swipe or rear end type crashes. Also, Australia's road design guide states the minimum traffic lane width should be 3. Okay, so you've got some more info. At least we know where it is now, and we know sort of what type of crashes we're worried about, and we know actually there is a standard in this case that might be worth understanding. Here's what I'd say is more an excellent example of an audit finding writer. So the right turn from main road to side roads too narrow for the width to adequately store turning vehicles. Concerning vehicles will encroach into the same direction traffic lane while either performing a right turn manoeuvre or waiting in the bay. Especially if more than one vehicle is queuing in the bay, this therefore will increase potential for side swipe rear end crashes, particularly under wet weather and weather conditions and at night. The Austroads guide also states that there's a minimum of 3.3 meters. The traffic volume is high. It's in a 60 kilometre per hour speed zone. And the concern is likely to occur occasionally with likely minor injuries. And a really important little thing here, a snip of the design and something sort of indicating where that is. And I really love seeing this. Photos and snips in the audit report. That is so much easier for a designer or a project manager to go, oh yeah, I know exactly what they're talking about. I don't have to read swathes of text and go, oh, which way is north? Oh, I forget. Oh, are you talking about that one or this one? I'm confused. No, it's there. Clear as day. Now, to make your life easy as sort of new road safety auditors, I've come up with a formula or a recipe in writing an audit finding. Okay? I've really tried to hone this down, okay? And they're actually going to put this into the next Australia's guide to try to make life easier. So what I've done here is I've coloured the elements of your finding, the way you write it up. First of all, you explain your issue, okay? Then you actually talk about the crash that could happen. And I want to see in their descriptions, rear end, run-off road, intersection crash, side impact crash, whatever it is, be specific. Then any particular, factors that may increase the risk, decrease the risk, or the like. And then any standards or guidelines, if applicable. Okay, the purple one is very optional. Okay? You don't need to refer it back to a standard or a guideline. And you either maybe don't know of a standard or guideline, or you know of it or it meets it. You might want to write that. You go, it is acknowledged this meets the current standards. However, the auditors are still concerned about the crash potential. And so, you're actually laying it out there. And if it doesn't meet standards and you're aware of that standard, you can mention that as well. But that's all the optional one. So when you go to auditing, I really want you in the write-up of the audit to go through this: issue, crash, risk factor, standards and guidelines if applicable. And it forces you into a few things, which is good. Nice description of it. This crash one's really important. Because if you can't identify and put clarity out there on the crash that could happen, it's probably not a road safety audit issue. And often we see this with especially technical people, designers, and the like. There's something that's pissing them off about the design, right? And it could be, drainage issue. It could be the way, the colors the designers use, or something like that, right? Well, that's not really a road safety audit issue. The drainage one could be if you think it's going to cause, aquaplaning or pooling of water or these sorts of things. But there are things that often pop up that are just not road safety issues. There might be project issues or design issues, but that's not our job. Auditing is just about the road safety. Things that will result in death or serious injury. And so saying I don't like it is not enough. You've got to tell us why you don't like it, because it's going to result in a crash. Okay, so that's writing up the finding. But how do we risk rate these findings? So we found an issue. Back there we discovered it was the lane's too narrow. It's going to, have side-swiping vehicles and rear-end challenges and the like. Well, we need to then risk rate that. Is this intolerable risk or is this very low risk? And the way we get to that is the sort of international formula for risk. Now, first person who can write that in there, sort of risk is this times this. You can have a prize. First person to write that in. Nick's just got in there with likelihood times consequence. So likelihood times consequence, or frequency times severity, depending on where you want to, where you come from. So it is, what is the chance the crash is going to happen, and when it happens, how bad is it going to be? And we use a slightly modified risk table from the usual 5x5 matrix that is used in risk management for road safety auditing. In the next update, we're actually bringing it back to a 5x5, but for now, you still have to use this one. All right. And what it's got here is the severity of crash and the likelihood of crash. And so we've got catastrophic, serious, minor, limited, and frequency, frequent, probable, occasional, improbable. So if the crash you're concerned about, you believe it'll occasionally happen, and when it does, it's going to have the minor injuries, your crash risk is medium. If you think, wow, this is going to happen all the time, and when it happens, it's going to be absolutely catastrophic, the risk is intolerable. So that is how you arrive at your risk rating. And in the Austroads Guide, part 6A, page 27, it is page 27, yeah. You get a bit more information about this, right? It's not just... So this is where you can go to look at, okay, what actually is frequent? Once or more per week. Okay, what's improbable? less often than once every 10 years. Okay, so now I'm getting a gauge for the timing, the frequency of these crashes. Okay, what's a minor crash? Likely minor injury, low speed vehicle collision, cyclist falls from bike at low speed, left turn, slip lane crashes. You get some examples. And so you're calibrating your risk rating based on this stuff. Now, the thing that I always point out here, and it's often that people don't really listen to me or hear me, so write this down or something. Road safety auditors, when they're new, over risk rate things, but in a big way. Everything's intolerable, right? Because you've imagined it, you've seen it in your mind, you can't get, you're just like, this is going to happen for sure, right? But the reality is, in the whole scheme of things, we have each site has, few crashes. If you had an area that was having serious injury crashes every year, it's a really highly severe intersection and will be, heavily looked at. The majority of the time you're looking at an issue, and what you've got to try and do is risk rate it based on the amount of crashes that you predict are going to happen there. And so my little trick for an auditor is to work backwards and say, right, they're planning to design that intersection with that 2.9 meter wide lane. If I come back in 5 years' time and they built it exactly like that, how many crashes at what level am I expected to see because of that 2.9 meter wide lane, right? Not in the whole intersection, just because of exactly that. And that'll help calibrate back your thinking. Because we do see, I'm not going to labor that. You'll play it out, and I'll provide you feedback in your assignments into some of this. So here we go. We're now starting to build a risk audit table findings and risk rating. And audits do come with these big tables. And to be extra nice to you, we've given you example road safety audits. We've given you templates to use. And you're welcome to use all of this when you go out auditing and just, rebrand it. We've got no copyright on any of this. We want consistency, and we know that these conform with the Australians. Right, so the table is the way that it starts. So here we go, issue, SNP, risk rating, and then we go into a couple of other things. But I might pause before that and see what questions have come in.
Excellent, thank you, Ken. Tell us about nuisance impacts. Are they considered in road safety audits?
So nuisance impacts may come out in, if I go back here, you may give it a limited, down the bottom there, in terms of severity of crash, limited. And limited we see there, likely trivial or property damage is the outcome. So you may decide to do that. Other questions?
Do you take into account traffic flows, turning movements within the audit?
You do, you can. It all depends on what how it all plays out. But in order for you to get to making a call on frequency, that's going to be a big factor, isn't it? If the road has 2 vehicles a day turning out of it, the frequency of crash is going to be a lot less, even with the same sort of configuration as one that has 2002 vehicles coming out of it. So you're taking volumes and turning movements into account because of that. You also might be looking at the traffic modeling, the SIDRA or whatever it is, to understand how's this actually going to operate. Is the turn lane long enough? Are they going to queue into the fast lane? Is there enough turn time? And so all of that, because it's all sort of got to be factored in. Okay, so we've got our issue. We've got the risk rating, right? So we've got occasional and minor for this risk. Minor because it sideswipes its rear ends, right? these can actually happen at fairly high speed without death or serious injury. And so it's minor. I think it's going to happen occasionally. So it's a medium risk, right? Now, I don't know, some of you, if I'd let you risk rate that, you might have gone far higher because I'm 2.9. That's fine. You know, drivers are generally pretty good. They won't intentionally be crashing into stuff. So but anyway, it is a bit subjective risk rating. There is no right or wrong, by the way. And you'll notice that if I don't like your risk rating, I won't say it's wrong. I'll just say you're a bit off where industry would risk rate this. Right? Then you start looking at this and you go, rightio, where are we in this impact threshold speed table that we talked about? And we go, well, we're within tolerable levels because it's side swipe, it's rear end. These crashes can happen at decent speeds without people being killed or seriously injured. So we've put within tolerable limits for our safe system energy. And then we go, right, what do we recommend? Consider measures to reallocate road space to allow for at least 3.3 metre lanes. Now, we haven't done the design for them. We haven't, provided a huge amount of information, but we're just saying, you work it out, but that's the issue. And actually, in the Austroads guide, it does say you are not bound to make recommendations. Any of you who end up doing road safety audits in New South Wales will discover that the New South Wales government does not let you make recommendations currently. I think that's going to change, but they don't like to be told what to do or even have recommendations. No, they're actually concerned about legal liabilities of not doing what an auditor says. Now, that's really just a misunderstanding of the audit process to think that, but nonetheless, that's where they currently sit. But auditors are not really bound to make recommendations, but we do. Industry practice is that you make recommendations, you try to help out. And so there it is. I tend to use this term consider at the start because when I'm auditing, who am I to be telling this project what what they should or shouldn't do? I'm just injecting some things that they should consider. Now, some auditors often are a bit stronger than that, and I will admit that in some audits I go a bit harder than others, depending on where we're at. But I usually say consider measures too, and then give them my ideas. The last thing I mentioned is this: you got primary, supporting. Forget about non because we'll never be presenting that. That's in there for language. You're either going to categorize your finding into a primary or a supporting. This is going to be the biggest confusion you will have as an auditor. What on earth do those mean? So I think we've put this page into your notes in big because it helps you, but they're not saying primary is your number one recommendation. Road safety interventions and infrastructure have been categorized into primary, which is road planning, design and management considerations that virtually eliminate the potential for fatal or serious injury occurring in association with the foreseeable crash, the crash that you're thinking about. Supporting planning, design, management considerations that improve the overall level of safety with the foreseeable crash, but are not expected to virtually eliminate the potential for that crash, that fatal or serious injury crash occurring. And they also don't change the ability of a primary treatment to go in the future. This one is really one where you will practice this. You'll get a better understanding. There is an Austroads document that has lists of treatments and categorizes them, but your audit finding may have multiple primary treatments, or it may have no primary treatment and all supporting treatments. Okay, so this one was a supporting treatment. The reason for that is that if they go and they redesign it and they make the lanes 3.5 meters, right? It does not virtually eliminate side swipe or rear end crashes. Okay, it certainly lessens the chance. But people can be texting, they can be, half asleep, drift out of their lane. They're still going to sideswipe. They're still going to rear end. This is going to lessen the chance of it, but not virtually eliminate. Okay.
Quick question, Ken.
Oh, okay, I was about to jump onto another example. Let's go with the question.
Sorry, it's about the tolerable levels. If we can just, here's a scenario for you where turning vehicles are queued, but through vehicles are travelling past. What about the situation where someone ducks out from the turning lane? Does this go above the tolerable level?
So it would, you'd have to look at what is the speed the vehicles are going past, what's the crash type, which is still going to be a side swipe or rear end. And we know that those can really sort of be happening at somewhere around the 70 km/h mark, even higher for side swipe, and they're generally within tolerable levels. So I hope that sort of explains how I would analyze that. The vehicle's turning when they get struck, that's down at 50 or so. So that's a friendlier crash. Or side swipe, the vehicle turns out and crash. That's a far friendlier crash than having a vehicle coming at you. And Duncan makes a really good point there, unless you're a road user that's much more vulnerable, a cyclist, a motorcyclist, pedestrian. So you've got to think about it all within that mix. Okay, here's another quick one, and I'm going to go through quickly because I think I've got a fair bit more to cover in my 20 minutes. Okay, this one I've sort of written out in full. What I'm worried about here is a thing called dynamic visual obstruction, or what these auditors, this audit team, I shouldn't say I because it's always an audit team. Dynamic visual obstruction, they're building a new intersection here. And you can see there, I don't need to read those words because that diagram should hopefully be telling you exactly the story. And I love that. I don't like reading large slabs of text. And I'll tell you now, the designers, the project managers, they don't want to read big slabs of text. They just want to see a diagram and go, oh yeah, I know what they're worried about here. So this is a turning vehicle blocking the sight lines of a through vehicle. And so let's have a look, for the intersection of this and this, vehicles turning left to create a dynamic visual obstruction to motorists and increase the likelihood of crashes involving vehicles turning out from the cycle. Probably a little bit more could go into that when we look back at our usual formula. But okay, we've got with improbable and serious, and we've got again to medium. Okay, improbable, serious. We're thinking it's going to be a serious injury when this happens. And this one has been identified as exceeding tolerable levels because this is a 100 km/h speed zone. This vehicle's traveling at 100. It's the bullet vehicle. This vehicle's pulling out. That's the one that struck. That, when we go back to the graphs, is way above the 50 km/h threshold speed, isn't it? So we go, this exceeds our tolerable kinetic energy levels.
So this car, okay, right.
Sorry, you're not on mute there, Kathy. Consider measures to reduce the speed and or angle of impact at this location. This is a recommendation. This could be achieved with a roundabout primary. If this cannot be achieved, consider measures to improve the sight lines of this location, such as increasing the offset of the left turn lane, bring the left turn lane further down, or relocating the hold line forward, provided that it can be done safely. So moving the hold line out further, getting this vehicle out further to open up sight lines. So you can see, and there, I should say, those are both supporting because they don't virtually eliminate that crash. They lessen the chance of that crash. The roundabout, that's our primary treatment because it will slow the bullet vehicle down. It will improve the angle of crashes. Let me just show you dynamic visual obstruction in some photos that I've borrowed from CASA. It's out of the Austroads document. But here you go. You can see that truck in the background there. You can see the white car that's next to it. Okay. Good. You go right. As soon as that white car is passed, I'm going to go. All looking good, and then bang. There's the whole time that silver car has been masked behind the truck. And that's the exact scenario that we find quite a lot of side impact crashes. Primary would be a roundabout, slow everybody down, improve the angle of impact, supporting. Little tip, again, because I know this is going to be a struggle. To be categorized as a primary treatment, it must either address the consequence of the crash or virtually eliminate the possibility of that crash happening at all. And by virtually eliminating, this must take into account like general human error. Accidentally running red lights, falling asleep, turning around to, scream at the kids who are fighting, whatever it is, things are still going to happen. So the consequence one is really slowing the speeds down, improving the angles of crashes. I think the easiest way will be when you practice. I think we just have time to do this quick quiz. If there is one there may not actually be one. We may have crammed it into the other one.
I think let's skip this one, Ken.
Okay, I'm running out of time. That's code for. Okay. Here we go. A few words. A road safety audit is not another name for just a site inspection. You're just going out to inspect a site. It's not a road safety audit unless you go through the full formal process. It's not a quick check of a design or an existing road. Your designer that works next to you doesn't throw the designs over and say, "Oh, can you road safety audit those and have them back to me after lunch?" No, there's a whole process to go. Not another name for a black spot investigation or a substitute for that. It's not an opportunity to redesign the project. It's not a design review against standards or a method for prioritizing or ranking project options. That's a common one that you get given, that you get asked to do a road safety audit of these 4 options and rank them from best to worst. Not your job. You identify the issues in each of them and you provide that back. If they're insistent on that, you can provide a separate memo that gives your opinion on that, but that's not part of a road safety audit. And it's not a safe system assessment. That's a different beast. Actually, safe system assessments are far better for doing that one above, prioritizing and ranking. And it's not a safety and design check. And road safety audits are problem finders. And this is a real challenge often for the people we get to this course because they're all problem solvers. I'd see a problem and seeing it and solving it is all done like that, right? But what we need to do is really hone in on finding the issues, writing that up really clearly and providing that over to our client. Yeah, we might give them a little few ideas on how to solve it, but it's over to them. That's their job. That's their project. They know about all the constraints. So road safety audit, design review, there'll be overlap in just the usual design review process. Safe system assessment sort of overlap a bit of both of those. Safety and design is that one of, can it be constructed safely? Can it be decommissioned safely? Can it be, can you do maintenance activities safely and all of that sort of stuff? So there's a bit of overlap between all of these. But what can be audited? Well, anything that interacts with the road environment. And sometimes not even with the road environment. You can audit off-road cycleways and shared paths. So all of these things can be audited. Now, this is a good example, but I'll just quickly go through it. All this council was going to do was seal this unsealed road, formalise this unsealed road. They thought, I don't need to do a road safety audit. I mean, we're just following the design guide and everything's great. We're going to improve things here. We're improving this road. Why would we do a road safety audit? Well, they went ahead and did it. And then the number of crashes at this intersection skyrocketed. And the reason for that was that people approaching this road when it was like this, um, it was very clear to them that this road didn't continue. This goes back to our see-through effect. As soon as he did that, it just looks like it continues on straight through. And this is from the new section. Forget about the burnout marks. This is from the old section. So that's what you're seeing. It just continues straight through. When that was not sealed, different color, different shape, everything was changed about it. So this is a great example of where we should be doing road safety audits on all these projects that are, large infrastructure projects. Even if you can't, as a project manager, see why, you'd get value from that. That's not the point. The auditors are these independent checks. They see it from a different perspective. It's something we're really looking for. And so the audit could have suggested things like, big things like a roundabout, but also things like splitter islands, which would really help. More advanced warning, maybe staggering the intersection so it doesn't look like a straight through. It's a offset T intersection. Put a hazard board there and there. You don't drive straight through that, do you? There's many things that an auditor could have suggested. Okay, I'm just going to run through a few slides here about the different types of road safety audit, and then I'll give time for a few questions before we close out today's session. So there are these official types of road safety audit. So the types are based on the project stage, really. Okay, so you have these feasibility design road safety audits, preliminary design road safety audits, detailed design road safety audits. You have roadworks or construction site road safety audits, pre-opening, so that's just before the minister cuts the ribbon and opens the road. Post-opening, so the road's open, it's live to traffic, but it's just been built, you look at it. And existing roads or thematic road safety audits. The feasibility audits are what we generally call the planning stage audits. I mean, these are really big planning level things. Big town bypasses, you don't have much detail at all. But, you're thinking about, well, how are the residents from up here going to get down to, the shopping centre here? And where are they going to go? And, how are people going to cross the roads? What are the interchanges like? Are they going for signalised intersections? Are they going roundabouts? Big picture, planning stuff. Then we get into, maybe a little more detail, and there's still what I call a feasibility where you're saying, okay, signalised intersection, U-turn brakes, how's that all going to play out? But you're not given much detail. The preliminary or concept is starting to get a bit more detail, a bit more meat on the bone of your design. So a preliminary design road safety audit, you're starting to see this stuff. It may be on a survey base, it may still be on an aerial, but you're seeing a few things and you're getting more detail. The detailed design road safety audit, this is the big one, right? This is where you can get the 500-page design set with the cross sections, the long sections, the lighting design, the pavement design, the signs and line marking design, the lighting, the full works, the drainage, the lot, right? And you've got to go through every one of those and try to identify, are there things in here that are going to cause death or serious injury, or they're not preventing death or serious injury? And, you're looking into real minute detail. They say, well, we're going to have some drivable culvert end walls. Well, you'll be going, what type of drivable culvert end walls? Okay, this one's not drivable at all. That's what an end wall or a head wall of a culvert looks like. You run off the road, you hit that, you're in trouble. A car or in a motorbike for that one. This one is a type 1, and this is a type 2. And one of them is designed for a culvert that runs parallel with the road, and one of them is designed for a culvert that runs parallel to the road. And they don't work so well if you get the wrong one. And, the perpendicular and the parallel, there's some standard drawings, but that's the kind of level of detail. It's a completely just random thing I picked, drivable culvert end walls, but that's minute detail in a detailed design. Construction site, yeah, you're looking at the traffic guidance scheme that's coming out. What are the existing conditions like, and how's that all going to play out? Pre-opening audit, quick prize for the first person who types in. You've been asked to do the pre-opening. They're just about to, the post-opening. It's just opened this road, and can you see any issues? They've just opened the road. You've gone out there, 2 days after it was open. No, everybody's happy with it. Right. Yep. Lily was onto it first. Again, it's super high speed internet coming from Lily because a few followed correctly after. So yeah. What do we got here? Straight and right? Straight and right. Well, you're going straight from there, and this one's turning right. We've got forced conflict. When they painted that, they painted it upside down. They got their stencil upside down. That's the kind of thing we're trying to look for. It happens, right? You think, oh my God, that could never happen. Well, the reason you'd hope it would never happen is because there's auditors and there's people checking this. Pre-opening audit is just before you cut the ribbon, you're checking the line marking was done right, that sort of looking for that sort of stuff. The delineators are the right color, the barriers are set up correctly, and all of this sort of stuff. Sorry, I should say that is one Wally there. There's been a few others. That one I've jumped past a couple of times, so just the one for this little bit. And existing conditions road safety audit, and I warn you against too many existing conditions road safety audits, because if you're a road authority, this is because you just get a list of tens of thousands of issues. You can just walk out the front of your house or your office and audit a kilometre of road, and you'll come up with a heap of issues. And it's about having processes and systems to rectify these issues. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And thematic road safety audits, so bicycle, pedestrian, cyclist. Okay, I've got to give you a little assignment to do. So your mission this week, if you choose to accept it, well, you have to accept it because it's your assignment if you want to pass. You are going to be given a random topic, and Kathy's about to generate the random topic. You'll do a little bit of research on that topic, and you will create some sort of short video, fact sheet, cartoon, TikTok, whatever you want to do to convey a little bit about that topic to the rest in the group. And we want you to relate it back to road safety and road safety auditing, ideally. And we are going to give prizes out next week for the most creative way of presenting this information, the most technically sound, and the most engaging. So over to you, but the topics here, they're all interesting things in road safety. And it's just an example of how there's just huge lists of stuff an auditor should be aware of. And we're just going to pick one of them, but then you'll get info on all the others from the other people. And while Kathy gets up the random topic generator for people, I'm just going to have a quick look at if there's any questions, if I work out how to do that. All right, random generator. Okay, look, it's moving. I love it.
I think you have to say stop, Ken, when you're ready.
And stop. All right, so take a copy of that or something, a snip of that so we don't lose it, Kathy. Don't try it yet. So we've got, sorry, I'm jumping around here.
That's okay. I'll tell you what we've got. So Catherine's got active advanced warning signs. Tim's got skid resistance. Sam has directional signage and road safety. Lily, and we've got a couple of Lilies in the group. So Lily has got freeway ramp metering and safety. Nick has super elevation. Duncan has categories of road safety barriers. Alyssa has motorcycle audits. Zitao has school crossings. Kent has slip lane and slip lane stand-up angle. John has dynamic visual obstruction. Shanna has trap lanes. Archie Moore has dwell on red or rest on red. Christopher has stopping sight distance. Karen has heavy vehicles at roundabouts. James has road sign retroreflectivity. Javier has self-explaining roads. The second Lily has curbing near barriers, and Wendy has motorcyclists at roundabouts.
Awesome. Like every one of these topics I love, and I could talk to you for like an hour about that, and plus the others. Have a Google of it, find your info. If you're struggling, let me know. But really, we're talking, what sort of time would we be expecting people to spend on this, Kathy?
Look, we don't want you to spend too long. So we are looking for something fairly short and concise. So about an hour. If you get so fascinated about the topic and you want to get into it a fair bit, you certainly can, but we're looking at about an hour. If you get stuck and you need some help with researching your particular topic, do get in touch with us. I'm just showing you Moodle there, hopefully.
Yep.
So this is where it is, and I'll if you've missed your particular topic, never fear, I'll pop it up here, but it's basically just explaining to you what you need to do. We have said it's due by this Friday because you do like a bit of weekend research topic reading or viewing there, Ken, but look, ideally before next Tuesday's session, so Monday at the absolute latest, and you won't lose points for getting it in too late.
And creative, engaging, technically sound prizes, you know, think of something creative. We've seen cartoons, we've seen podcasts, or, you know, audio, we've seen videos, we've seen, you know, just random things. I would love to see somebody do something with interpretive dance. That would be amazing. But just, whatever you think of. But we do want to get across a little bit about that topic so others can learn from it. Fascinating topics, all of them, and the other, 20 or so we had. And it shows we're just not going to get to cover a lot of this. So you're going to continue to do learning and research. Hey, it's 4:01 on the Eastern Seaboard. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken, and thanks everyone for your participation. So this is where your quiz is, your multiple choice quiz, and this is where the research topic is in Moodle. This one just looks a bit more hectic because I'm in the editing version, but that's what it'll look like on your end. We'll see you all Thursday afternoon.
Do your quiz, do your assignment, get in contact if you need.
Great.
Do we have to do the quiz before Thursday? Ideally, do the quiz before Thursday, but basically you have to have done all your quizzes by the end of the course. So if you wanted to leave them, but it shouldn't take you long.
Terrific. Thanks again, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.